What's in store for London property prices in 2022? In this video, I'm going to share with you some of my predictions, and I'm also going to share with you my tips on where you should be looking to invest if you're looking at buying property in London in 2022. Now, 2021 was a massive year for property prices in the UK in general. By the time we got to December 2021, the average UK house price reached £267,000. That is up £24,000 on the previous year. That was an increase of 10.4%, which was the largest annual increase since 2003. But London didn't fare so well. The capital city of the UK did not fare so well. Instead of 10.4% growth nationally, London had growth of just 4.2%, with the average London house price ending 2021 at £507,000. So London has a little bit of catching up to do to make up for lost ground in 2021. We all know why house prices have increased so much and why 2021 was such a fantastic year. Of course, we had the SDLT holidays and Rishi Sunak's stamp duty exemptions and all of that, which no doubt helped. We continued to have record low interest rates. And of course, with all the quantitative easing, money giveaways by central government, that added to inflation. And whenever there's inflation, you always get a little bit of inflation in the property market as well. But why didn't London keep pace with the rest of the country? Normally, when there's a price boom in the UK, London leads and the rest of the country kind of follows in a ripple effect. Well, of course, in 2021, we were hit by the COVID crisis. London was pretty much in shutdown and people didn't need to go to the city centre. If you ever drove around the city of London in March, April time, it was very depressing. It felt like a complete ghost town. And of course, many people decided to actually quit London and go to the suburbs and the countryside. There were other factors as well. The central London market in particular is driven by foreign investment. Yes, there were some tax changes. Yes, Brexit has had a little bit of an effect. But the main thing is the travel restrictions. If people can't travel to the UK, what's the point in having a home here? But to call the London market is a little bit of a strange thing. It's a little bit more complicated than that. You've got central London, the zone 1 sort of prime type of real estate type of places. You've also got these higher value outer areas in zone 2 and 3. And then you've also got the suburban London areas as well. Each one of them has a different dynamic. Also, there's been a massive difference between the growth of prices of flats and freehold houses. The overall growth in London was 4.2% in 2021, but houses grew at nearly double the rate of flats. I think that's supply and demand, and that trend is likely to continue. In London, the further you go into the centre of town, there are fewer and fewer freehold properties to buy. Most are leasehold. Most of those are subject to high service charges, and particularly the new build stuff that's going up is subject to very, very high service charges. When you have a freehold, of course, or a share freehold flat, you don't have to worry so much about that aspect of maintenance and running costs. If you're finding this useful, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell icon. We put out about 3 videos each and every week, and you're going to want to receive a notification when we upload that. And the other aspect of London is the price range. I mean, there's properties selling for £10 million plus. There are properties selling for millions of 1 million and more. All of these markets are completely different in the way they work. The sweet spot where there's most of the transactional activity in London is at the £500,000 to £700,000 price range. We're already seeing in 2022 signs of a massive uptick in central London. Of course, this has been driven by the fact that restrictions are coming down, people are returning to office work and that sort of thing. And London is becoming again the vibrant capital city that it once was before this COVID crisis. As travel restrictions ease, more and more people can come from abroad and can therefore invest in London. London has a unique dynamic in the worldwide real estate market. London property is seen as a safe store of wealth. and a place where you will get long-term capital appreciation. That is its draw, and that is likely to continue. Inflation at the moment is running at 5.1%. Many analysts predict that headline inflation will be 6%. The real inflation may be double that. So of course that's going to hit property prices. I'm going to stick my neck out here and say that because London has this catching up to do in terms of catching up with the rest of the country for not growing as much in 2021, I see prime London growing by about 10% this year and outer London areas growing by about 5%. Come back and watch this video in December 2022 and see whether I'm right. Now, these are just my opinions. Tell me what you think about what's happening to London in 2022. I want to hear your comments below this video. The other thing about London is the reasons for investing. If you're looking at the prime central London zone, it is not about buy-to-let, because buy-to-let yields simply don't make sense. If you're buying a property in central London and you're financing it with a buy-to-let mortgage, it doesn't make sense. You're going to make yields of 2.5%, 3%, if that. It doesn't make any sense at all. There are areas where you can get much better returns, particularly if you're leveraging the asset. People buy in central London, prime London, for one reason only. It is stable, long-term capital growth. The thing about London is the growth happens in bursts. What tends to happen with London is you have several years of prices not really going anywhere, keeping up with inflation, and really just on a holding pattern type of trajectory. And then you have a few years where it's boom, 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 and you get double-digit growth or more year on year. Now, my belief with central London, prime London, is that we're at the cusp of one of those growth spurts, which is likely to continue for 3 or 4 years for all the reasons that I stated. So what we'll see is a return to prime central London of people investing for that capital growth. So prime central London is due for a bit of a catch-up. What about outer London? Well, my money is on the new Elizabeth line. The Elizabeth line is due to open this year. It's Crossrail, of course. It's been in the making for quite some time. But you only have to look at this map and look at the stations to the west and to the east of central London. If you're looking at buy-to-let, there are plenty of towns to the east and west of London on this Elizabeth line where buy-to-let stacks up. And that's actually several different strategies, whether you're doing commercial to residential conversion and creating CMOs, commercial buildings in multiple occupation. If you pick these sort of towns on the east and west of the Elizabeth line, you'll do well. If you want to find out more about commercial to residential conversions, of course, I run regular webinars. I'll put a link in the description below. Join us for one of those. We'll get back to the video in just a moment. What is the most exciting opportunity in property right now? And that is repurposing defunct commercial buildings to residential use. Now, most people don't really know where to start, what to look for, and how to exploit these opportunities. And that's why I've prepared 90 minutes of free training for you to get you started on this wonderful journey. You can register for this free training at property-workshop.com. Join me on that free training, and I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of the video. Now, I think the savvy investors will be looking for freeholds because there is a much greater value in having freehold property as investment property, buy-to-let property, or what have you. And I've done a little video on this where I compare and contrast the investment potential of flats versus houses. You want to watch that as well for the full rundown of that. But a summary is this. The thing with leaseholds, you've got high service charges and you've got a ticking clock as the lease kind of winds down, the value gets less and less. Some of these service charges can be quite high, and it really affects the profitability of that investment as a buy-to-let. Freehold frees you of all of that. So the great thing about this Elizabeth line is if you pick up towns on either side of central London within close proximity to these stations, you can still pick up freehold investment properties where buy-to-let or HMO investing still works. Now, the great opportunity for 2022 is if you pick off towns either side of central London within easy reach of the Elizabeth line stations, you can pick up great freehold assets for either buy-to-let or HMOs, which will work a treat. In summary, I believe London is going to be full of opportunity in 2022. Prime central London, if you are looking for long-term capital appreciation, now's the time to get in, because I think we're at the beginning of 2 to 3 years of continued growth. And the outer regions, particularly on the Elizabeth line, if you're looking at buy-to-let and HMOs. Now, that's what I think. Tell me what you think in your comments below. Also, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe for more videos. See you in the next one. Bye for now. High streets across the land are changing forever. Basically, there's an oversupply of retail premises. Shops are closing down, more are going to close down in the future. The government know this, and that's why they're introducing a light touch planning system which allows small developers to easily repurpose these buildings to residential use under a light touch planning regime called permitted development. Now, this is going to be the biggest revolution and the biggest change and the biggest opportunity for property investors that I've ever seen. And this is all coming into effect on 1st of August. So you need to know what's happening and what properties to look for to take advantage of these opportunities so that you can get in there and take that first mover advantage. I've got a 90-minute free masterclass to get you ready for August the 1st. Make sure you join me, click the link below. Whether you're a beginner or expert, we'll get you started.